Okay, the thing I am amped up about this new moon the most is truly Venus. Venus, sexy Venus, in her home sign, Libra, that's ruling this new moon in Libra. And it's not just that, but this new moon grows into a full moon, like all new moons do. That full moon is going to be a full moon in Taurus in the middle of November, and that full moon will also be ruled by Venus in Libra. So we're entering a stretch like, this next lunar cycle of this new moon in Libra, what this video is for, hello, is just so Venusian. It's so relational. It's so nice, and it's so sexy, and it's so focused, which is the most important part that I'm excited about for this full moon, because it's focused, okay? I'm getting that because it's the ruler, and the ruler is just Venus in Libra. Until now, we've had all this complicated rulerships with one planet being ruled by another planet, being ruled by another planet, being ruled by another planet. And in astrology, what that essentially means is that we've got just like layers and layers of energy to figure out, which is fun and fun. It's nice. It gives me a job to do, but it's so nice. And it's so enjoyable when there's clarity of focus. And there's so many reasons why we have clarity of focus at this new moon. So I'm going to go into it. 3 reasons right here. 3 reasons why we have clarity of focus, from the adjustments we need to make, from some decisions we need to make. And then at the end of this vid, I'm going to give you a sneak peek of some horoscopes that I will be doing. You can get the full ones on my Substack. I also have a free version of Substack, so you can just join me over there. You can either pay for the full horoscopes, or you can just join me for free. I write some weird things on like painting and metaphysics and stuff. But anyway, here is what I have for this video, which I am so excited about, because I truly feel like something clicked for me when I was going through this horoscope chart. So let's start with number 1 here. Restart a new relationship through the rest of 2025. Now, the reason I'm saying we're restarting a relationship is because this new moon happens at the 28th degree of Libra. That is 28 out of 29 degrees of a sign, which means we are starting something new. It's a new moon at the end of this sign, okay? To me, this is starting something that's already been begun before. So in a sense, we're restarting what? Well, Libra is a relationship. For everyone, it is a relationship. So we are restarting a relationship. We're restarting something that we want. We're restarting something we have to balance our own lives out. Now, as I said, this new moon happens at that 28th degree, which is why I'm calling it a restart. Something already started, but we haven't been able to get it fully off the ground, so we're starting it again. But here's the catch. This is really a restart that's going to take us through the next 3 to 4 months into February of 2026. And that's because all of the new moons from here on out for the next 4 months are going to happen at a 28th degree of Scorpio, Sag, Capricorn. It's not till we get into Pisces season next year that we're going to have a new moon at 8 degrees, which I think we're going to be in a totally new place. February 2026 is certainly the marker of a new era, simply because Saturn crosses Neptune. That's a whole topic I'm not going to get into this video, but this new moon is the relaunch of a relationship, the relaunch of an effort that you're making to balance out your life, essentially, because that's also Libra. So the other really, really big thing happening at this new moon is that Mars and Mercury are making a conjunction, but Mercury is entering shadow right at the new moon and right as it enters its conjunction to Mars. So there's that clarity again. There's a clarity of focus. That conjunction happens in Scorpio. So there's a clarity of focus that's undeniable at this time, and I really like it. I don't give a fuck. Oh God, I don't give a crap about Mercury retrogrades anymore. I think they're things to blast through. And I don't think they're anything that we should do to go backwards. I'm so over that interpretation. The sun's going to keep going forward. All of the other planets are going to keep going forward. I think earlier this year we had a really, really sticky situation because we had Mercury retrograde, Mars retrograde, and Venus retrograde all happen at the same time. So that was kind of its own soup. This time, so much more clear. And I'll go into more of that when I talk about the upcoming full moon, which will be another video. But what I want to just say really quickly is that upcoming full moon at Taurus, we have Mercury will go retrograde a day after the full moon, But then a day after Mercury goes retrograde, we have Jupiter going retrograde. And actually, the day before the full moon, we have Uranus stepping back into Taurus. And so if Uranus is like the higher logic mind, Mercury is like our logic brain, and then Jupiter is our right brain, our creative logic, then we have all of our types of intellect decisions, like switching directions, changing tunes. But I think it's all happening around this full moon. That's going to be the result of this new moon. So there's something really, really big and fun happening here. Now, just one more thing on Venus that I want to say before I go to the next point. Venus is going to be in Libra, as I said, like throughout this whole lunar cycle, essentially. I don't know if that's true, but she's going to be she's just going to be in Libra up until the full moon in Taurus. And where Venus will be at the full moon in Taurus is where this new moon is happening right now, which is 28 degrees of Libra. Venus will be at 28 degrees of Libra on the full moon in Taurus. Sorry if that goes over your head, but it's interesting that the ruler of this new moon takes the position of this new moon by the time the moon gets full, if you know what I mean. And we'll see how this factors into what's happening at the new moon and the adjustments and the decisions we're making right now. But I think that's really significant. To me, it says that we are getting something. The Venusian, the relational, there's something here that is actually really fully going to become visible, because the ruler is going to be at the seeding intention point of this full moon. There's no way around it. Okay, I'm very excited about that. There's some caveats, nothing bad, but just, okay, this is where I go into number 2, which is adjustments. So we need to basically bring our mind into a new perspective when it comes to relationships. And that's why we're restarting the relationship. There's a huge adjustment that we need to make, like in how we're processing the purpose of this relationship that we're wanting to restart. And I see that in the yod that's happening. There's a yod and an opposition that's happening at this new moon. It's the yod between the new moon and Neptune, and the new moon and Uranus. New moon and Neptune and new moon and Uranus, there's 2 inconjuncts that are happening there. And when that happens, we have a yod. All of the gravity is pulling on this new moon intention around an old relationship. So the intention that we're carrying around this old relationship here, really it's carrying us into the next 3 months, right? That Mercury retrograde is going to bring us all the way to the end of December to get out of retrograde shadow. And, I would say January is really going to be the time, early January, where we're going to feel restarted, even though I said February is really when things are shifting into a new zone. I'm saying January because we're having this huge lineup happen in Capricorn where we're going to have a Venus-Mars Sun conjunction, which is going to restart our relationships. And so given the fact that this is a very relationship-centered new moon, January is definitely the end goal I see here. Or rather, it's kind of like the realignment. Like for now until then, we are realigning ourselves to start something up again in January. And it's interesting because what this yod, to me, yods are all about adjustments, right? Yods, it's not a perfect opposition. It's not like it's either going towards an opposition to see someone exactly clearly, or it's just waning off of an opposition where you've seen someone exactly clearly. So you need to ask yourself, like, what shifts do I need to make in order to continue with the momentum that I need here? And the momentum is that desire to be in a relationship, that desire to ultimately complete something about a relationship. And specifically these yods that I'm pointing to here, it's a yod, it's a first quarter sextile between Neptune and Uranus, okay? Neptune in Aries and Uranus in Gemini right now. And this is a growing sextile, which means we are kind of very early on in this very long-term cycle. Neptune and Uranus are outer planets, and so they don't move that quickly. They don't have very long, like short-term relationships. It's a very long-term thing. And because it's about a relationship right now, there's something that maybe we'll want to be achieving in one relationship, but we're going to continue to bump into issues. And that's the Chiron opposition. That's the boomerang point here. So like we'll have the intention, Chiron will show us some core wounding we have in ourselves about the relationship, and then we'll get those inconjuncts. Like the energy will beam back out to the inconjuncts. And essentially how I see that is back to that sextile, the Uranus-Neptune sextile, which says we do not know the edge of our own consciousness and truly the edge of truth. Uranus is the edge, Neptune is truth. And so this sextile that's forming this yod right now to the new moon is this really long-term metaphysical thing that's saying, like, what is the edge of your own personal truth right now? Like, if you're trying to get a relationship goal right now figured out based on who you think you are, like, it's not going to work because you don't know enough about who you think you are right now. And that's not to undermine your personal sense of worth. But I'll give you a very clear example. I'm like totally dating. Like, I always want to be in love, okay? And to that end, I'm always finding like new relationship setups, like new ways of thinking. Like, are we all just descended from Adam and Eve and destined to like repeat soulmates, or like what's going on? Truly, what's going on here? And so I'm constantly thinking about it. But then if I haven't been in a relationship for a while, I'll like pivot back into like, oh my God, I just need someone. I just need someone. And then I'll go on a date or something, and then it'll be like, oh, what do you actually want? Like, what's actually your core desire here? And that's that 28-degree Libra new moon question, which is, we've been alive for a while. Like, this is not our first rodeo in relationships. And so this question of, with all of your life experience, what do you really, really want in a relationship? Like, what's actually going to help balance your life? And, you know, this is not to say relationships are bad, like they're amazing. And often they end up pushing us to our own edge of what's possible, to the edge of the known, right? To the edge of our own personal truth. And that's the Uranus-Neptune dynamic that we're dealing with right now. Uranus being the edge in Gemini, it's of our minds, and Neptune is in Aries still, which is our personal truth, So relationships are helping us push ourselves to the edge of personal truth right now. And this yod at the new moon says there might be a relationship or a desire we have to complete this relationship that is ultimately going to have us making real-time adjustments that allow us to be in a much larger field of learning and possibility about relationships and about truth, rather than trying to conform to one fixed idea of what a relationship is and is for. And ultimately, it's not to like have you not get what you want, but it's to help you stay in an open relationship with God, with possibility, and with your own self and your own intuition, without needing to like fully structure something down. But I will say, because of this opposition to Chiron, we have like a boomerang point, which is, I mean, it's helpful because it clarifies all of this even further, but it is very sensitive. And the thing is, that is healing. Chiron is absolutely a healing point. And so I'm happy about this, but it's like, I have a tendency when I hit that Chiron point, you know, this last full moon we had, in Aries, the moon eventually landed on Chiron for a while in that full phase of the full moon. And dang, I really was down bad for a minute in some big emotional swell of that Chiron, that Aries Chiron, which is that core, this piece of core wounding, where ultimately, again, it wants you to heal yourself. There's some aspect here of profound healing within relationships that's completely possible, but these are adjustments that we need to make, and they're adjustments as to what the purpose of a relationship is, and not letting that get stuck in the past. So, okay, that's my second point. All right, my final point here is that I see there are two major decisions happening at this at this new moon. And I see that because we have the moon in a very wide T-square. It's not that wide, but wide enough. It's not exact. T-square to Jupiter and Pluto. Now, this is fun and interesting because Jupiter is still pretty far from an opposition to Pluto, but at the same time, you know, the new moon will have already squared Jupiter, and it will be coming into a square to Pluto in the days following the new moon. So I still consider this a T-square. And so interesting, because what happens at this T-square is we have one first quarter square and one last quarter square. A first quarter square is the square between the moon and Jupiter, because the moon technically already passed Jupiter once in this cycle, but the moon hasn't passed Pluto yet. The moon is still completing its relationship to Pluto, whereas with Jupiter, the moon only just came off of its conjunction to Jupiter in the recent past. And so that means there's two different types of squares. We have that first quarter square, moon to Jupiter, and the last quarter square, moon to Pluto. Now, the way that I read this very simply in this context is that this intention that we're carrying to work on this old relationship, to allow it to make adjustments in our lives, is having us say yes to something very big, which is the first quarter square to Jupiter. And it's also having us say no to something very big, which is Pluto. And that yes-no dynamic, the thing we're saying yes to and the thing we're saying no to, while they're not in exact opposition to each other right now, they will be coming, Jupiter by next year will be coming into an alignment, an opposition to Pluto, and there will be something big in terms of the wisdom that we've carried since 2020, the wisdom we've been growing about our deepest desires. Now, that's too far to get into right now, but in the context of this new moon, I would say it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool because we don't have that super face-off between Jupiter and Pluto just yet. However, squares initiate a ton. And we've been coming through this square to Pluto several times with Mars, with Mercury, with the Sun, and then Venus is going to come. And I think we've been building up to the decision that we're making right now. I think we wanted to make the decision when Mars squared Pluto. I don't think we were able to do it yet. We hadn't kind of aligned a lot of these things, but I think we are making the decision now. And I think that's partly because we are very aware. There's a lot of precision with that Mercury-Mars conjunction. Even though Mercury's going to go retrograde, I don't care. It's very precise and it's very clear. When you have your thoughts and your speech aligned with your actions, there's a lot of integrity, so there's a lot of movement, there's a lot of forward moving stuff that can happen that's actually in alignment with where you are. There's an amount of coherence that's actually helpful to you getting that thing that you want, which is to restart this old relationship. So I guess I want to just be clear about this first quarter versus last quarter T-square thing. We are saying yes to something, and the thing we're saying yes to is something emotionally expansive, something that feels safe. You know, Jupiter in Cancer, it could be like making a decision to move your home or something, right? Jupiter being in Cancer, Cancer is about the home, Jupiter is about a journey. And then I think what we're saying no to is a group dynamic, which is something that Pluto in Aquarius, and it's hard, we're saying no to it, but that's because it's this last quarter square. The last quarter square is all about realizing when you've hit the edge. It's a very similar Aquarian archetype, but it's saying, I've already, this again is in the context of the last conjunction between, let's say, the moon or the sun and Pluto, which would have been back in Aquarius season of this year. And again, this last quarter square is really hinging on that next conjunction between the sun and Pluto early next year. So if you can see how the flow of things happen here, like at the last quarter square, that's the final benchmark where we say, actually, no, I need to individuate even a little bit more here and create some space for myself and remove myself from structures that is nothing inherently wrong with them, but I need to create space for, let's say, a bigger pond to jump into. We're not going to get to that pond till early next year, but we need to make the space now. And I think part of that decision is saying no to some group dynamic right now, in favor of focus on a one-on-one connection and in favor of focus on like moving home or investing in that safety, the emotional dynamic of safety or something to this end or effect. So I hope that all makes sense. Quickly recap here. We're restarting a relationship, and hold on to the little horoscope notes I'll show you based on what house this is falling in, because it's not going to be like a one-on-one relationship for everyone, but it is going to be a dynamic of balancing out your life that you've been very passionately trying to do this for a long time at this 28 degrees, and we're just trying it again. I think we're going to get somewhere that we haven't been this time, but I think it's going to take us several months. So this lunar cycle is much more about really starting it and aligning with focus and clarity, with the ruler being so clear in Venus and with the Mercury-Mars conjunction. So we have a very clear focus here. We have a timeline. And so that means we need to start making these small adjustments that have to do with why we want this relationship at all, in what context of the truth of our life, which is that which is the sextile between Uranus and Neptune. So what's the edge of our own truth, and how are we just being guided to the edges of that and to calling in and being receptive to more information? Uranus in Gemini, more information about our own personal truth and the edges of that, and how our relationship can actually help us be at our own very leading edge of evolution, as you could say. So that's the adjustment, that's the yads, and that opposition to Chiron. So this is very sensitive. It's also very healing for us to be doing this. And then finally, within the context of all these decisions the decisions, yes, we are making, but also the adjustments. So the adjustments are conversations about the type of relationship. They're, figuring your own truth out. This is big, intimate conversation energy, but this is going to lead you, these aren't just casual conversations you're having with dates. This is these are things that are going to prompt you to make major decisions around the desires you have in a community setting and your own emotional growth with the squares to Jupiter and Pluto. So, and again, what I'm seeing there is we're saying no to Pluto and we're saying yes to Jupiter. So I hope that makes sense. I've seen this tract in my life so clearly, and it's very exciting for me. And as I said, the most exciting part is truly just that Venus is in her home sign, that this is going to turn into a full moon in Taurus while Venus is still in her home sign. So while we are doing a lot of adjustments and we're making difficult decisions, absolutely, at this full moon, I think because of our clarity of focus and the actual touch point we have, we're going to do it. It's going to happen. And the last thing here is that because Venus is going to be at this 28th degree, the same degree that the new moon is happening now, Venus is going to be at that degree at the full moon, early November. That means Venus is going to be now making this first quarter, last quarter square, yes, no decision herself. Do you see what I mean? I don't know where exactly Jupiter will be retrograde by then, so it might be, a little bit less exact than it is at this new moon, but Venus will still be making this last quarter square to Pluto, so that's a no, right? But at some point, Venus is going to make a first quarter square to Jupiter, which is going to be a yes. And so there's something even more personal we're getting throughout this lunar cycle up until the full moon, early October, where the ruler Venus is going to be receptive to even more deeply committing to the decisions and the intentions that we're setting at this new moon. Okay, so, and even despite the fact of all the retrograde, Jupiter retrograde, Mercury retrograde, I don't care. Beyond all of this, I haven't even mentioned Jupiter, Saturn are going to be in this trine to each other with Neptune. That's going to make a lot of things possible emotionally over the next 2 months that truly coincide with the Mercury retrograde period and with all of these 28-degree new moon periods where we are beginning things in order to finish them. This grand water trine we're getting when everything moves into Scorpio is truly going to be making a lot of this happen. So I'll speak more to that at the full moon video, and I'll be making that at some point. But yeah, now let's shift into some horoscopes. I'm going to go through all 12 houses. So please check where 28 degrees of Libra is in your chart. I read by houses, not by your rising sign. That is a fight we can get in at a later date. So once you've determined where 28 degrees of Libra falls in your birth chart, you need to ask yourself these questions. Now, I'm going to walk you through basically this very first step in the YouTube video here. And if you want to see me walk through the whole 4 steps, go get the full horoscopes on Patreon. You can join my membership. It's like $8 for a month. And you can also get the upcoming full moon horoscopes for that price too. So, okay. All right. These are the same questions that I brought up in the first part of my video. So, as I said, the first for everyone is that there's acknowledgement that your world is out of balance. That's true for Libra season. Libra implies imbalance, therefore balance needs to occur, okay? Beginning this thing, which is the house. Okay, there's a new relationship happening. It's not the first time you've tried to start this relationship in the house, okay? And the first thing that's going to happen is that you need to make some adjustments that will only open up your mind further to the possibilities of what that relationship can be, so you're not getting stuck. It's going to bring up some sensitivity in the opposing place of that house because of Chiron. And, you know, following down the line here, the sensitivity, the adjustments are going to bring you to saying 2 big things, okay? 2 big decisions, a big yes to something, and a big no to something. Yes to Jupiter, no to Pluto. Yes to the first quarter square, no to the last quarter square. Because we have Mercury-Mars conjunction and we have a very clear Venus-ruled new moon here, we have clarity and focus. And because Mercury will retrograde, I do think that we are already anticipating that over the next 3 months, we're coming into new realizations. Not only that, but all of the next new moons are happening at like 28 degrees, the end of a sign. So we're going to be starting things to finish them, essentially, starting things we've already started really up until January, February of next year. And finally, this decision and process will grow into something very tangible that you will see and then be able to say another yes, no to November at the full moon. And that's going to be where the Taurus part of your chart is. I think exactly 14 degrees of Taurus. Venus at 29 degrees of Libra, or sorry, 28 degrees of Libra in mid-November. So basically this dark new moon will turn into a full moon. Venus still ruling in Libra. This time, this new moon, sun and moon are making an intentional decision. The yes, no here, the Pluto, Jupiter, yes, no. But at the time of the full moon, Venus is going to be the one saying yes, no. So I'll talk about that in the next YouTube video that you'll see for the Taurus full moon. But for now, as I said, I'm going to go through the 12 houses truly with just this first, really just the first one. We're just going to go over your house. 12th house. So if this new moon's happening in your 12th house, 12th house is about spirituality, spiritual project. Essentially all the houses, there's some type of project, some type of relationship that you're starting up again. That 12th house is also where you have the an unending pursuit of like mysticism and truly your mental health. I don't know why I have games here. You've been trying to figure this out for quite a while. And so it's just you're starting it again at this time. So this could be a spiritual goal to relate to something otherworldly, to Libra, relate to something otherworldly. And then you can imagine Chiron's going to be around here, probably in your 6th house, although I don't know, it could be somewhere else. Yeah, I don't want to go too deeply into this without a lot of context, but yeah, there's a new relationship that's really sparking something spiritual for you, or perhaps the relationship is with something non-physical. Maybe there's a teacher that you find in this new moon time online, and you form a relationship with the mystical teachings of this teacher, never really meeting them in person, but them really influencing your day-to-day life with that sixth house opposition. Okay. 11th house. So your like new relationship that you're restarting really has to do with a community. And the community and the intellect are kind of the same thing. What you're thinking about and who your community is often reflect each other. This is an Aquarian archetype in the 11th house. And so you're getting a new beginning within the synthesis of Libra in Aquarius. So this is very social. This is a very, very social new beginning, and this could be returning you to a mindset or a philosophy that you've been trying to grapple with for quite a while, but might not feel like you're able to claim as your own just yet. And this cycle will really carry that intention for you to create a new relationship to a community. And like I said, for everyone, go back and consider all these questions. Like you can take a screenshot of this right now and consider where it's all happening for you. I don't know why that all just disappeared. But yeah, community. All right, let's go with 10th house. So 10th house is about maturation. And you really holding a framework for yourself, which really easily translates in the world to career. But I think it's like ultimately like a core project. Like there's a really core legacy. Legacy is a good word here. Like there's a relationship that you want to be a part of your legacy that you're returning to at this point. It's not even that you want it to be. But there is a relationship that is part of your legacy. And I think you're trying to really understand and like have it manifest the balance and the truth and the stability, 10th house stability that you believe it to be capable of. I think you've probably been in a lot of cycles of getting this relationship to help you create that stability in your life, but you're still trying again for it. And I think that's kind of what's happening at this time. So again, go back and consider in your chart where the adjustments are showing up, where the big yes, no is showing up, and how this, career relationship is actually sparking these other adjustments and decisions. Okay, if it's happening in your 9th house here, we have like some plans that you've been trying to really get underway, or like there's a trip you really want to have to go, like you want to go on, or maybe there's something you want to write about, there's a book you want to publish, there's an academic venture that you want to embark on, there's a language you could even want to learn here, but it's like in talking to someone else, this might be like you have a friend in Korea you want to go see, very important relationship to you that is abroad, and yet embarking on this is going to make you adjust a lot of stuff, and then you're going to have to say some big yeses and big nos to in your life. But ultimately this could also be just you moving away from your dogma and starting to be in relationships that fit your open-mindedness a little bit better. Because that 9th house, we can get stuck in dogma, but when it's working really, really well, we know our own truth and we can relate to other people equally for their own truth. So this could be just like clear, just like foreign exchange vibes here that really push you. It's very relational to this whole Venus Libra time. Okay, 8th house. This is mine. Okay. So there's an intuition or an investment you've been trying to claim for quite a while, and that kind of pursuit begins again at this time. 8th house is like psychic, invisible. This is like the most desirous part of the chart as well. We have like our deepest fears and we have our deepest desires here. And with Libra being in this part, it's all about how you're connecting to other people and the depth with which you're able to be met and to meet someone else So, right, like I give astrology readings and I go very deep with people, but I also create a really lovely space. And I think this is just me doubling down on my own intention to do this work that I'm doing. And so there's other things in your life. This is also about investment and like taxes and other people's money. So it's like, what are you doing with the resources that you have access to in order to like grow them exponentially or to really hold trust? Trust is a big one here. Like you invest where you are placing your faith and your trust into something. And so, this could be a very deep, a very intimate relationship that you want to start with someone, or that you've been wanting to start for a while. You want to deepen in this pre-existing relationship in a way that like you get a joint bank account. Okay, not my current position, but like yeah, there's a contract, there's like a very deep soul contract that kind of wants to begin again in this configuration. Okay. Seventh house, very clearly about other people. Okay, like eighth house, it could be someone else, but it's the difference is eighth house is like you getting an investment from someone and like making your case and getting trust from someone, whereas seventh house is like actually a partnership. It's actually like the actual client outside of you, or it's the like your actual friend or your actual partner. There needs to be like a reestablishment of your roles in each other's lives. And as you do that, you readjust like who you are, you make big decisions and you say yes and no to certain things. But again, the seventh and eighth house are very similar. I would say the difference in the eighth house really just is that it's more psychic. You have to hold your energy more. And have a lot more trust and faith. And like this is in the eighth, a new beginning that's going to be a little bit more dark, potentially, a little bit more like you really have to trust something that you can't see. Whereas seventh house is visible. So there's going to be something very visible that you want to restart in a relationship, like an actual conversation you just get to have with someone, then you just get to walk this path with them, over this next cycle. You get to make the adjustments. You say yes and no. Maybe you're doing that together. Maybe, this could be also ending a relationship because it's 28 degrees. So you're really at the end of the beginning here, or you're at the end of a relationship and it's kind of like the beginning of the end of a relationship. This might not be a bad thing, but again, it's just clarifying what the true role is happening right now. Okay, sixth house. I always call the sixth house an attention practice, and that's because the Virgo archetype is about where you're shooting your life force through your eyes, through your hands, through your fingers. And so this could be like you're a massage therapist. Like this is like you're shooting your life force through your body into someone else's body. That sounds really weird, but like there's a balance happening in your sixth house, which is your daily practices and your routines and your own health, that needs to be rebalanced. Okay, so you're recommitting to this is like your relationship with your day-to-day life, essentially, and the relationships that make up your day-to-day life. Maybe you do see clients, maybe you serve people. This is very clearly serving people. Sixth house is serving, Libra is someone outside of you. So you could be restarting a role that you have, and it's probably some type of service-oriented or spiritual role that you have for actually like it's like body work or cooking or something like that. And once you kind of recommit to that, it's gonna ask you to restructure a lot of your like this part of your life. Okay, so go back into those questions that I said before, but this is starting, there's an intention to restart the relationships in your day-to-day life, I would say. Okay, if this is in your fifth house, we have a creative endeavor you've been trying to develop for a while begins again. This is very fine art coded, Fifth house is like creativity, anything joyful. Libra is like perfection and balance in this way. And so maybe there's a painting that you've been wanting to make, something you want to write, something beautiful like poetry, that's very meaningful for you, that's going to close a chapter in your creative life. But once you realize and you recommit to doing this, it's going to change. It's gonna have you adjusting your life, making some bigger decisions. So it's not really just recreating or recommitting to a very joyful creative practice. It's like when you choose to recenter a joyful practice in your life, like the relationships that get to show up around you are different. How your day-to-day looks is different. Um, so this is very like fine art creative, restarting something that's your own personal joyful endeavor. I mean, this is also dating, right? Fifth house, Libra. This could just be dating. You could just want to keep dating new people, or this could be like the end of dating. You could say, okay, I'm gonna go on a few last dates over this period, and then like maybe I want to start um, dating more seriously now. Or maybe you just start to understand your tendencies towards romance and dating, you understand them better, right? This whole thing is about that yod comes to mind. Like, anyway, that's a really interesting position, the fifth house. Fourth house, there's a familial relationship you've been trying to, I say, develop for quite some time. I think there's an understanding here that this is Libra, your relationships to your fourth house, to your family, something you want to integrate emotionally about your upbringing, about your ancestry. And you've already probably been down this road of investing time talking to your family, trying to understand something, talking to even a therapist, like just connecting to what's really true emotionally, what makes you feel safe in relationships. Fourth house safety, Libra relationships. So you're like recommitting to your own safety in relationships, essentially, which can bring you down any one of these rabbit holes here. But that's really the foundation of your whole chart. And so you're really reorienting a lot of things. And I do think it's the development of personal safety. It's the development of personal strength in a weird way, because when you can really be in charge of your relationship to yourself, which is very much so this fourth house placement, Libra relationship to your fourth house self, that's the deepest, like your inner child. Um, Once you prioritize and recommit to that, everything else can really restructure in a very profound way. Okay. Third house is an idea you've been trying to develop. This is like you've got something to write. This is again feels like poetry vibes, kind of like the fifth house. You've got something to communicate to someone else. Someone else has something to communicate to you. Writing a book, doing a podcast, singing. This could be singing. This is a song that you want to sing. There's something here about like beauty and grace and relationship and your mind, like all the different ways you can relate to people. This could be someone who's relationally very curious and wants to like really develop this idea about relationships. And in doing so, there will be very consequential stuff that happens when you use your mind that way. So that's pretty cool. Second house is a resource you've been trying to acquire for quite a while. Libra is what you want in relationships. It's like the clothes, your fashion sense of style. That's very much so how I see Libra second house. Maybe there's like a bag, like something that seems kind of superficial that you want, but it's kind of like very symbolic of something else. This could also be money, like a better balance around finances in your life, but this is very tangible, very material. So you've been trying to like really acquire this resource and feel like it's very accessible and stable for you. And maybe you've again just been trying to do this. This could just be continuing to save money, but maybe you're reaching a threshold in this lunar cycle that allows you to make these bigger Pluto Jupiter decisions through a lot of adjustment. So, and then this first house is a physical practice or self-image. I really see self-image here because Libra is how other people, like how you engage with other people, right? But that first house is all Aries. It's all about you. So there's this like self-image that you've been figuring out who it is that who are you naturally projecting yourself as in the world, right? That's your Aries seventh house. And is it actually adding up to how you know yourself and what you're actually behaving, right? That first house is all about actual physical action. Um, and so I think we're just first house here recommitting to the behaviors that are authentic for us to be doing right here and right now, and that the behaviors that balance really. That's how I see it. Behaviors that balance us. And it's not as a performance for someone that you think you should be seen as, but rather it's what's actually going to help you adjust and make the right decisions in your life. So that's what I have for now, my friends. I hope you have a really great time. Check out the Substack for further horoscopes and get a reading with me. Okay, bye.